We haven't had a Bigfoot video in a little while. I've looked at Sasquatch-like creatures from many parts of the world. I always like to find the wild humanoids that are a little less well known. Asia is said to be home to animals like the Batutut and a ram Pendek. Japan also has its own version, a dreadful real-life monster that is said to look like some kind of evil ape. Let's take a look. Welcome to IF, videos on history and mystery. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video again. Beasts which have a somewhat man-like appearance are often featured in myths and legends from different cultures around the globe. The most famous wild man of today has to be Sasquatch or Bigfoot of North America. This cryptid humanoid's fame being closely followed by its cousins, the abominable snowman or yeti of the Himalayas. We can also head down under and find that Australia has their own man-beast, the yowie, zipping across the water to Sumatra, and we come across the ram Pendek, this wild man of the jungle not matching the size of its relatives from the north, and is thought to be a small, unknown ape that walks upright. South America also has its reports of large violent apes, and we cannot forget Russia with its Bigfoot known as the almastay or almus. For many who casually view the subject of cryptid wildmen, they may think that the legend of Bigfoot is a modern concept, a relatively new debate that was thrust into the public when the controversial Patterson film was released. A film in which a live Bigfoot is seen walking across a riverbed and into the woods. The short movie was captured in the autumn of 1967 at Orleans, California. This short clip has rarely been out of the public eye since first receiving widespread attention from mainstream media back in the late 60s. This thrusting Bigfoot into the public domain and making the cryptid a modern popular culture icon that has since featured in movies and TV shows, all of which were inspired by the hairy humanoid that was caught on tape that day. The truth is that wildmen are an ancient phenomena, a phenomena as old as humanity itself. Probably the earliest surviving reports of stories of a wild man are those that describe Enkidu, Enki's creation. This wild man being in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which was penned over 4 millennia ago in ancient Mesopotamia. Enkidu is an important part of the epic, described unflatteringly as an uncivilized wild savage, more animal than man. The character's story begins with him being raised by animals and living amongst herds of game in the wilds of the ancient kingdom. Always on the fringes of society, Enkidu was considered the embodiment of the natural world and is the antithesis of the cultured and eloquent hero Gilgamesh. Something that is unique to Enkidu and is something that has not been part of wildmen legends in other parts of the world is that it is possible to tame the savage side. The epic details how he is taught the traditions and customs of the civilized world by, of all people, a prostitute named Shamhat. I guess the love of a woman can tame the heart of a beast. Enkidu spent 7 days enjoying her company, which resulted in the animals rejecting him when they sensed her human scent on him. Maybe Enkidu just needed a little tenderness. Women, after all, are considered a common influence on men, or at least they were in the days of old. Enkidu then goes on to become a loyal companion to Gilgamesh, and his tragic death deeply causes much pain for our cultured hero, the bereavement inspiring him to seek out immortality. This story illustrates how wildmen, or the idea of wildman, has always been with us. Greek and Roman myths were also filled with tales of wildmen. They were said to be sexually voracious creatures. Depictions of the wildman figures showed them as gods of nature and the wilderness, along with fertility, obviously. Historians have recorded how these wildmen figures seem to all be rooted in ancient legends from Neolithic cultures across modern-day Europe and Russia, but As we know, there are just as many tales from the opposite side of the planet. You don't, however, get too many reports from Japan. That being said, there has been a few. In August of 1973, a fantastical story appeared in Japanese media, this story adding to a land already swimming in ancient monster legends. To quote the article, it begins saying, "A dreadful, real-life monster that looks like an ape and smells like decaying flesh has been observed by several reliable witnesses in the mountains of Japan near Hiroshima. The creature may be the product of a mutation from the deadly atomic radiation unleashed when the first A-bomb was dropped on that city more than a quarter of a century ago. According to some investigators, eyewitness reports indicate that the monster lurks amid the low shrubbery clinging to the foothills of Mount Hiba. The area, one of the few wildernesses that teeming nation has preserved, includes Hibayama National Park." The article continued, "A typical sighting of the creature is reported by one Mr. Sazawa, the owner of a dry goods store near the town of Saijo. Mr. Sazawa was scrambling through the foothills digging wild sweet potatoes when he saw the thing. In Sazawa's very own words, it is about 5 feet tall, with a face shaped like an inverted triangle covered with bristles, having a snub nose and large, deep glaring eyes." The media coverage continued, "Mr. Sazawa is certain what he saw is not a monkey, for monkeys in Japan grow no taller than 3 feet at the most. The accumulation of these other bits of data has led to increasingly intense speculation. Is this a gorilla, a wild man, a deserter from the Japanese army hiding in fear? Or is it the offspring of some unfortunate peasant grossly deformed by the ravages of atomic radiation?" Mr. Sazawa was not the only one to witness the strange ape-like creature. The previous year, 1973, a Mrs. Rieko Harada from the town of Hiwa claims that she saw the beast when she was making her way home with her small son. The woman was startled when she heard the sound of rustling in the bushes. To her shock and surprise, something that looked like a gorilla stood up from the bushes at the roadside. It raised its arms, she said, a gesture often made by gorillas. The woman described the beast saying its face was a chocolate-like brown color, and she remembered that its body was covered with thick, dark hair. She told the media, "When I saw that monster, I suddenly went numb and couldn't walk. I started shaking with fear, but then somehow I got the nerve to pick up my little boy and run." Later that very same evening, the press noted 4 residents armed themselves heavily and went hunting for the beast. They saw nothing but trampled shrubbery, but one reported the place smelled like a dead body after it starts decomposing. The Japanese Bigfoot, as it has come to be known, has yet to be defined by the authorities some 30 plus years after the encounter, and although the Japanese Bigfoot is infrequently seen, they still remain an elusive animal lurking in the minds of cryptid fans and monster hunters alike, just like their more well-known American cousins. These legends and tales of Wildman are somewhat of a dichotomy. The Wildman is often used to represent what humans would devolve into if we were to lose civilization, a cautionary warning that without civilization, we could become a wild man, a dangerous savage beast who kidnaps children or attacks the innocent. For others, the wild man can represent a romantic concept, a less complicated life living in tune with nature and void of the stresses society and modern civilization bring. As our civilization grows and evolves, we find ourselves more and more relying on technology, and the environment in which we live is increasingly a crowded place. The chance that there is still a wild man undiscovered in the woods or mountains somewhere is particularly exciting to many of us. A glimpse of freedom, something that has been as much of an allure to us as it would have been for our ancestors thousands of years ago. Do you believe in the many types of wild men seen around the world? Are they members of the same species, or are they something else? Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, if you like what I do here on the channel, hit that red button, like and share. You can catch the latest by searching We Are If. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.